So it's Tuesday again. I still haven't mastered this lighting. Gonna work on it. But today I wanted to talk about Renaissance, Revolution, and a Pan-African canon. Not to be confused with the big gun. Well, we all know about the infamous quote stating the best place to hide info from a black person is in a book. Popular culture and observation will lend some truth to these statements. And now that we've entered the information age, technology, which is theoretically supposed to make our lives easy and efficient, has only made us lazier in the way we consume goods, services, and information. Our attention spans have been whittled to nubs, and we start fidgeting in the face of more than a couple sentences. Like, seriously. And so now we have trouble focusing in on and dissecting the huge bombardment of subliminal suggestions in propaganda and in advertisement. And as a direct result, our consent is no longer required or earned. It is as manufactured as the products that we are addicted to. So the question is, why don't black people read? And I'm going to tell you why. But first, we must acknowledge that Africa is the birthplace of humanity and language. And as linguist Noam Chomsky states, there's nothing in animal communication which approximates to the distinctive features of human language. So, like math, at babies we all start at zero and navigate a sky-high mass of streaming data, eventually arriving at a steady state of verbal communication. From then on, how well you communicate or use this power is dependent upon the amount and type of information you feed your brain and cognition. So what goes into you determines how well it comes out and how well it's used. So in fact, not only were we always literate, we had 3 phases of complex literacy in Africa. Number 1 is orality. And that contains our myths, our folk tales, legends, psalms, proverbs, praise poems, dirges, and intricate epics. They all arguably, like I said, have their origin in ancient Africa. Storytelling enabled behavior planning and stimulated language evolution in context, including its effects on the evolution of consciousness and
how familiar, ancient, and new niggas for sale, fresh cargo. New niggas for sale, a lively stock. Don't you see them? Can't you hear it? In the whistle of the wind, in the howl of the breeze, in the pour of the rain. Can you taste it? Sugar cane, sweet indigo, rich rum, like intoxicating. There is something about suffering that makes men mad and makes others money.
So, black people, don't be ashamed of your oratory nature and the stories our ancestral mothers and fathers proudly handed down to us, because they handed you the tower to the heavens centuries before later civilizations even attempted to build the Tower of Babel. So the tales of our oral tradition made their way to Ethiopia, where written works have been discovered that appeared before the earliest literatures in the Celtic and Germanic languages of Western Europe. The second wave of literacy moved across Africa with the spread of Islam. And soon after the emergence of Islam in the 7th century, its believers established themselves in North Africa through a series of jihads or holy wars. And in the 11th and 12th century, Islam was carried into the kingdom of Ghana. And the religion continued to move eastward through the 19th century. And then the third phase occurred when the Europeans came. So literacy is ours, and its intricacies were embedded in our elaborate languages, most of which had no written equivalent. We had powerful memories and excellent recall. Yeah, so our problem-solving skills and critical thinking skills were unparalleled, which is why humanity was able to develop complex communal societies and civilizations in the first place. But then we went on a series of transatlantic cruises manned by crews of thieving backward barbarians. And ironically, they fought for religious reformation in the 1500s, right before they sailed here to escape further persecution. And they died for the right to read their Bibles, and then turned right around and scratched your eyes out for trying to read chores or even drawing your ABCs in the mud with a stick. So, they stopped us from reading then for the same reasons they are stopping us from reading now. Slaveholders feared slave rebellions and attempts of escape. Most of them sought to minimize slave exposure to the outside world to reduce the risk of a rebellion. The desired result was to eliminate a slave's dreams and aspirations, restrict access to information about other slaves and rebellions, and stifle their mental faculties. And today, corporations funded by mass, blind consumerism, classism, racism, and environmental economic crime depend on our ignorance and the implementation of divisive tactics. They fear your rebellion and attempts to escape designated psychological illusions. They seek to minimize your exposure, attraction, and attentiveness to literate people outside of your psychological bondage to reduce the risk of rebellion. The desired result is to eliminate your dreams and aspirations and restrict access to higher forms of knowledge that will free you from all the hurt you experience now by stifling your mental faculties as well. So back then, if we were caught trying to read or learn, we were punished by whipping, shackling, hanging, beating, burning, mutilation, branding, imprisonment, execution, sexual abuse, the plucking of the eyes, and castration. And from all of that, sustained psychological and physical trauma. So to go back to my earlier point, a canon, not to be confused with a cannon, like the gun, is any officially recognized set of sacred books. And you've read these books in high school if you went to an American public school. So I came across an article that said the American canon was established almost 50 years ago after the Revolution, the American Revolution. It stated that it was hard to find revolutionary books around the time of America's Revolutionary War, which we shed blood in, because American books were harshly reviewed in England. Americans were painfully aware of their excessive dependence on English literary models. In fact, the search for native literature became a national obsession for the early Americans. As one American magazine editor wrote around 1816, dependence is a state of degradation fraught with disgrace, and to be dependent on a foreign mind for what we can ourselves produce is to add to the crime of indolence the weakness of stupidity. Cultural revolutions, unlike military revolutions, the article continues, cannot be successfully imposed but must grow from the soil of shared experience. Revolutions are expressions of the heart of the people. They grow gradually out of new sensibilities and the wealth of experience. So to me, it looked like the Americans were searching for the type of stories and culture we've always possessed. Yet today, we see many contemporary writers of color or culture shunned and harshly reviewed by the same American society that earnestly tried to take its new experiences, turned literature, from underneath the heavy thumb of Mama Europe. After they distanced themselves from their Mama Europe, a huge number of books left in the wake of the Revolution paved the way for Renaissance or reawakening. Unfortunately, these books only enriched the society of the majority who wrote them. And writers have the task of voicing the human spirit and capturing the atmosphere of societal transformations before, during, or in the wake of necessary rebellions, uprising, and revolutions. It's how we face oppression. So, but anyway, right now, American literacy as a whole is in dismal shape. I mean, although we were kind of in the same boat at the beginning. Many of the whites had every opportunity to take advantage of all the knowledge that they were trying to keep from us, but the vast majority of the Southerners didn't. And as a matter of fact, in the wake of the Civil War, blacks were the first to organize schools in the South, while whites wondered what to do without the cushion of slavery. Black literacy is black liberation. We need a Pan-African canon as much as we need Pan-Africanism. In fact, a collection of books written for us and by us for the advancement of global society in light of what we have overcome and endured. So we're damn near even Steven as far as literacy goes. But in order to dismantle and rebuild our culture and put us ahead, we've got to tear these detrimental institutions from our psychological makeup. And we've got to know how. I mean, you can't disarm a nuclear bomb without knowing something about how it's made. You can't. Or you'll blow yourself up. And you can't discover or travel the universe without some type of blueprint for your vessel. So it's like we have to save ourselves without destroying ourselves in the process by being knowledgeable of our opposition. We have to arm ourselves with knowledge because it's like mainstream society is obsessed with the idea of a world without humanity, because deep down inside, this society is broken and it has ruined or has aimed to destroy the humanity in us all. But I don't want to focus on destruction and ruin. I want to focus on reconstruction and reunion. The reunion between us. And nothing connects us like shared experiences, compassion, and empathy.